why don't we get started with this this evening's listening session? I want to say welcome. In my opportunity to talk with you, listen to you, maybe give you some valuable information. I expect that we are going to have with us tonight parents, community members, administrators, staff members from Glendale-River Hills, teachers, everyone is welcome. I appreciate people taking their time. The ground rules for tonight will be people can come and go. They can come and participate. And then if they have to go do something, and I would anticipate between the hours of 7 and 8, you will, or 7 and 8:30, you will need to do things. That's just fine. But I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk with people. I have a few questions that were sent in to me, and we'll address those. And I look forward to people asking questions or making comments off the floor. Now, we may have some school board members. I know we do. We have, I see at least one school board member who's with us. This is not a school board meeting as such, and so no decisions can or will be made, but the presence of a school board member shows the interest in what we're talking about, and they want to keep an eye on me to make sure I don't do anything that gets all of us in trouble, which is to be seen. Let me run through some of the topics that I've written down before I open it up for some questions or comments. But I wanted to talk about the holiday break that's coming up, the school board meeting that's coming up tomorrow on the 16th of December, the superintendent search that the school board is presently engaged in and carrying out, snow weather days. This is Wisconsin. We've seen a few spurts of snowflakes, nothing serious. Our weather has gotten a little colder, but nothing that's been traumatic, but it could be coming. The topic of reopening schools is something we'll talk about because we've been talking about it in the school district. The Glen Hills Middle School Associate Principal position that is presently vacant. Want to keep the community and the staff and faculties up to date. Health report. I have found in my short tenure as the interim superintendent in Glendale-River Hills that the community, the faculty, the staff, the school board have been extremely interested in the health reports that Dr. Shannon Kilton has been presenting every 2 weeks. This is a popular topic of high interest. And so we can talk about that a little bit. School hours, specifically school hours for next year, is a topic of discussion that's been happening between the Glendale-River Hills School District, Nicolay, the other two feeders, in our planning for the upcoming school year, and the topic of our school calendar for next year, as we are working on that. And happy to discuss anything else, except if you want to talk about snow plowing or whether mailboxes are knocked down or anything of that nature. There's not much I can do about that, but anything I can help with, or I guess if you want to talk about your mailbox, I'm happy to talk about that too. I will eventually want to go through those topics with in this hour and a half. I have some people who think that I will not be able to do it. I not get through all those because of time, but we will. I will cover all those. So, is there someone who wants to start out? Is there something that people want to ask, and we'll get started? Or you're all waiting for me to talk? I hope not. Well, let me start with something. If you, maybe this will generate, I'm going to jump around on that agenda, and we'll talk first about the superintendent search. It's going well. The first part of the superintendent search here in Glendale-River Hills, and in most districts when there is a vacancy that's coming, is the hiring of a search firm. And the school board, the Glendale-River Hills School Board, has been engaged in a very thorough review of applicants to be the search firm for the superintendent search. They've done a very good job. I anticipate that tomorrow night at the school board meeting, the school board will name the search firm that they have selected. They have interviewed the search firms, the final two search firms, at least 3 times. They've talked to them at least 3 times, and they are feeling quite good and are very confident about the quality of the firm when they make that recommendation. The board has identified that targeting that a new superintendent will be named by April 1st. My last day as the interim superintendent is scheduled for June 30th. I think there are 30 days in June. And that would be the end of my tenure, and the new superintendent, I'm sure there'll be a transition period of a smooth handoff from me to that person in that time period between April 1st and July 1st. A smooth handoff, just like there was Larry Smalley did a very nice job of transitioning me. He was very cooperative and continues to be very cooperative in questions that I have, and I talk to him as often as is necessary, and he is more than willing to help out, and I will do that. That's the school board's expectation of me, is that I will be professional and I will be helpful as a superintendent, but also as a resident of Glendale and as a citizen taxpayer, that I will want to see that transition to the new superintendent be nothing more than outstanding, and I will do that. The search firms that the school board is considering are well-known search firms, and they have great reputations. And the board has talked directly with them, and based upon the action tomorrow night, it will be publicly announced who that firm is. And the board, I expect, and I think the board expects, that they will begin immediately working with the firm on outlining the timeline for what needs to be done in the search. And I'm going to guess the board will meet with the search firm yet this calendar year in 2020 or shortly thereafter. There will not be a waiting period. The Glendale-River Hills School Board has stated overtly to all the firms that they were interviewing that they want to get out ahead of the search. They want to get they want to get the good candidates. They want to get out there before the large number of vacancies. And it's anticipated, and we heard this from the search firms, there are going to be a large number of vacancies and superintendencies in the state of Wisconsin. It's been a tough year for superintendents, whether it's COVID-19, various issues. We've heard that they're anticipating 70, 80 superintendent vacancies this coming year. And that's what I've heard too, in terms of when I was in my position at Concordia University in charge of the superintendent licensing program, that this was going to be a very competitive year for superintendents. The Glendale-River Hills School Board wants to be first in line. They want to be up, they want to get their search done and attract the very best before other school districts are out looking for their superintendents. So on the issue of the superintendent search, anyone have any comments or questions that they want to ask, or make any comments or suggestions that I would pass on to the school board?
There is one hand raised, Dr. Moser. Kelly Steiner. I don't know if it's related to the superintendent search. It was up prior to that.
Very good. Kelly, go ahead on anything you want to talk.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't the superintendent search.
Oh, it's all right. Go right ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to just start, I've said this to all of the teachers and to the principals, but also to repeat to you, I have been blown away by all of the teachers and staff. I have a 3rd grader at Parkway and a 5th grader at Glen Hills, and I am amazed. They are learning, they are growing, their teachers know them, they care about them, they have relationships, they're building their like peer skills. I mean, all the things that I wouldn't have thought would be possible from the corner of their bedroom are, and it is because of the incredible work that the entire staff is doing, and I don't think that can get said enough. Then that's my kudos. My push is I'll own my bias. I'm a teacher in a neighboring district. And so in 18 years in education, I don't really know what a superintendent does. But so the pieces that I get from you are the emails that say that the teachers are going to be working from home on Friday. And that's great. And I've said this already to both principals, but you don't get a cookie for doing something you should have done from the beginning. So I think it's important that you do anything at all possible for your staff. And my guess is, like, I don't have to go into my building. I choose to because it's easier when I'm not here with my kids.
I won't repeat that. I won't repeat that.
They're here. You probably have staff that feel the same way, and I think you'd still have enough to cover the people that you have in the building. I know we do, but I think as much flexibility as you can give your staff would go a long way. They've certainly earned it. And I think just anything that you can do that shows them the appreciation would be important. And another thing that is a compliment is I've noticed in the communications about the board lately that there's been some normalizing of the use of titles in the board. And before that, I had noticed that the masculine reading members of the board were usually Mr. and their last name. And the feminine reading members of the board were usually called by their first name and not a title. But I've noticed that that's become much more normalized and that everybody's getting a title. And that's noticeable. And I appreciate that that's what my kids are seeing too, because, you know, because your teachers have done such a good job, they see stuff and they notice things.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Those are some very important comments. Extremely important. Let me just react. I'll try to remember at my age, try to remember all the things that you said. and react to them. First of all, positive. My reaction is very positive, Kelly. I don't want to criticize. I'll say, depending on who the school district is and who the superintendent is in your district, I'll give them kudos. And I say that fondly. And I've wondered what a superintendent does too. So I think many people have wondered if that position is necessary other than by state law, which it does. The state law says there has to be a superintendent. The staff in Glendale-River Hills, and I have no reason other than merit to say that they have been wonderful to work with. They've been great. My statements about the, or your statement about working from home, I take literally as a positive suggestion. But part of a word that I will use is that I trust the staff, and sure, it's a reward, but maybe more than that, I respect and trust them, and I know that they are professionals because they have reacted that way to me. I've watched them. I know it's been a short tenure. And I also, though, have learned over the years, as 38 years of being a superintendent, that people respond positively to respect and trust. And I have that for the staff that I'm working with. Not just the staff, the administrators. I think we have been doing quite well. And it is critical for your comment as a consumer of the work of our staff that you're saying that you've been pleased. I'm not sure you used this word. You were surprised. I'm not sure you said that. But there is quite a debate out there about virtual learning, remote learning, and there's a debate amongst us as educators on the values of virtual learning. I used to teach at the graduate level through Zooming in virtual education, remote. And even that can be tough. These are graduate students who are working on their doctorate or their master's degree or being licensed to be an administrator. And it can be difficult. I notice at times when I'm teaching a class, people, all of a sudden, I will see on the screen, they've plugged in their picture instead of there being live. Now I'll pick on someone on here. I see a parent right now, Jeff Hulk. Jeff, are you on there? Where'd Jeff? Did he go hide now that I?
Nope, no, I'm here.
There he is. Okay.
No, I'm back. It's a pleasure to see you.
One of my favorite teachers at Nicolay. He's a great teacher, a phenomenal family man, lives in the community. I run into him periodically at Pick and Save. Is that right?
That'd be correct. Yes, that would be correct. I
take pride in him because I hired him at Nicolay, and he's a good one. And he's a keeper. Mrs. Steiner, I hear your comments, and if I can show even more respect for my teachers and my staff and my administrators, I will try to find ways to do it. And instead of it showing weakness on my part as an administrator, I think it shows strength to the community. And I also say it shows strength for your being so positive with in front of the community for the people that are teaching your children. So thank you very much. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I saw.
I hate to do this. I'll keep my mouth shut. But I just wanted to interject if I can, and I promise I gotta be off by 8 o'clock anyway. So I promise I won't open up my mouth too much, especially since I think Tamika's here and she won't let me. But I just want to chime in on Ms. Steiner's comment and say thank you for both noticing the difference, but also for calling us out on areas to improve. I think that there are always examples where personally I can improve and do better, but where we can improve. And, I recognize that it's a learning process. And I think that my perspective is different from others. And I see in other contexts what happens when we don't afford people the same respect. So I am trying to work on that myself, but I also think that what we have is a board with a bit of a renewed spirit as of late. Certainly a lot of respect, and I think that we've been to some degree reinvigorated, and I think that some of that formality shows in terms of our ability to express just respect and cooperate with one another. I think that really what we're doing is in empowering the rest of the board members is really showing across a lot of different levels. So it's always something to work toward, and it's always something to be aware of, but I do appreciate the comment.
Well, since Andy got to talk, I just want to say one thing. Thank you for saying, Kelly, about the Mr. first name of females compared to calling Mr. Franklin and then talking to me, Molly, Teresa as our first names. My daughter mentioned that earlier about 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. But after you said that, I realized it does. And I'm sorry. Thank you. Now I'm going away.
It matters.
Now, the question that Mrs. Steiner raised is a good question about what does a superintendent do, as it relates to the superintendent search. And the superintendent is the administrative leader of the school district, responsible for everything that happens, good and bad. It sets the tone for the school district. There's a cliche that in education, but it also applies to any form of business, is the cliche is leadership matters. Leadership makes a difference. And in a school district, a school can go to great heights quickly with proper leadership, but it can tumble just as fast if you have bad leadership. And so the selection of a superintendent is extremely important in a school district because a superintendent can put a damper on what's happening, both with the school board and with the administrators and with the staff, or the right superintendent can pick things up. And the community can be excited. One of the questions that I received ahead of time from a parent, a citizen, was about our enrollment in the school district. The question was, has enrollment gone down this year? Is enrollment down this year from what it was in the 2019-2020 school year? And the answer is yes, it is down. Now, part of that discussion goes to the discussion over virtual learning. Some families are not necessarily happy with the concept of continual virtual learning and have gone elsewhere. There have also been a number of students who have moved, have gone out of state, out of the community. And I've approached Dr. Kilton to head up an effort to look at those students, those families who've left, and put forth an effort that we're going to try to get those folks back, if it's possible. If they moved to Texas, there's not much we can do about that. But if they still live, whether they live in the community or they are open enrollment students who were with us, it's worth the effort to try to bring them back into our community, into our family, our school communities. So we are going to make that effort by the spring. That effort is going to start right away. We discussed it with the school board in our committee that it's important for us to make a sincere and fruitful effort to get those kids, those families back if we can. And that's important for the superintendent to set that tone. Finances come under the direction of the superintendent. The hiring of the staff administrators. We're going to talk a little bit about the vacant associate principal position. Making recommendations to the school board. School board is the hiring entity. They're the governing body of the Glendale-River Hills School District. They are the employer. You as a community have elected them. That's part of the, there's another cliche that says elections make a difference. They do make a difference in a community. And who you elect to a school board is significant. School districts are one of the more important commodities within any given community. The schools, on our growth, our health, having a well-run school district here in the Glendale-River Hills community is extremely important to all of us. It has been for me as a father. My kids going through the Glendale-River Hills School District. I've continued to live here after I retired from Nicolay because I like living here. I like my neighborhood. It's a pleasant place. The proximity to Milwaukee, perfect for us. We want to have home values that are important to us. So having a solid Glendale-River Hills School District and Nicolay is extremely important to us as well. I have nothing to do with Nicolay anymore, except I pick on Jeff Hauk, or I volunteer to do fundraising for Nicolay. And I do want Nicolay to be a successful endeavor because the importance of our community depends upon Nicolay as well as it does the Glendale-River Hills School District. And I want our children who come out of Glendale-River Hills, my kids, my children who went through school were well prepared for Nicolay. They succeeded at Nicolay, and I want your children to have those same opportunities and same experiences that my children had. So when they go to Nicolay, they prosper. I found as superintendent of at Nicolay that the Glendale-River Hills kids did well at Nicolay, and that I enjoyed having them as much as I enjoyed having the kids from Mapledale and Fox Point. And it has a lot to do, a great deal to do, as Mrs. Steiner said, with the personnel in the Glendale-River Hills School District. It's the teachers who do make the difference. There's no question about that. The hiring process of the superintendent is very important. So other questions or comments? Especially for Mrs. Steiner's, that was a positive.
Am I okay to go now?
You can go ahead, Jeff. Yes, you can.
Thank you, Dr. Mosier. I would like to first off echo Mrs. Steiner's comments. I've got a 3rd grader and a 6th grader, and my kids are flourishing. It's been phenomenal. Their teachers are rock stars without question. But kind of switching gears, with your permission, of course, I want to talk about potential possible reopening plans. And my question is more of a suggestion maybe. Has the district thought about setting a potential reopening date, knowing the fact that it's going to take a ton of work to get ready for that? And then specifically with the potential for the rollout of a vaccine, supposedly teachers are in group 1B, whether or not that gets to us. But has there been talk of, like, for example, third trimester, we are going to open and but give parents a choice. You can remain virtual or you may come back, and then what coming back looks like is dictated by the numbers of parents that choose to come back. Rationale being, if you get 80% of families that want to come back, you can't have full-on 5-day classes, but you could run hybrid. Versus if you get 50, 40% of parents and families that want to come back, you might be able to offer an in-person option as well as a virtual option. By no means do I want to take away something that's working. And again, this is working for my kids academically, but there's a social factor that my students are lacking right now that is also an important component to their education. And I'm wondering if the district is looking far enough down the road where they're anticipating, like, okay, depending upon numbers, both community rate of infection and lack thereof, but also interest in parents, and combining both of those. Because my fear is if we keep the same measure of wanting an infection rate than 5%, I don't know if even getting back into school next year is a feasibility. So I don't know if that's a question or a statement. I'm just kind of wondering, like,
Sure.
what are we looking at?
I think it's both, and that's just fine. And I think everyone in the, on the listening session now knows why I hired you as a teacher back whenever that was.
21 years ago.
How long ago was it?
21.
21. Man, it tells you how old I am. That was a good hire. I'm going to start, and some of my colleagues I'll invite to jump in, and you'll see why they'll jump in. It never occurred to me back when I was a professor at Concordia that schools possibly be out of face-to-face, person-to-person instruction for a whole year or from spring to spring. It didn't occur to me that this was going to be an elongated process. And it is, for good reason. It is a good reason. But I now know that that is happening. Here we are already in the middle of December, and we're still doing virtual, and I will editorialize on that. I personally have felt that the Glendale-River Hills School District has done the right thing by being consistent and having a plan that they've stayed with. I don't the on again, off again, where you're in school for a couple weeks or a couple days and then you're off. I think parents, staff need to know what to expect, and they need to be able to make arrangements and plans for their families and their economic health. So the stability and the consistency, I think, has been quite good. But I also am realistic, and I live in the world, and there is getting to be a great deal of pressure. And we're finding out more and more about COVID-19. I read a study today about the children we serve in the Glendale-River Hills School District, the PK through grade 8, and the likelihood of their being susceptible to COVID-19 as related to the students at Nicolay, let's say, or adults. The study I read today was they were portraying adults being 16 and older. and the likelihood of catching the disease. It didn't necessarily get into the transmission, and the article did get into the vulnerability of teachers and staff to COVID-19. But there is quite a study concerning this, and there's quite a debate. And so I've asked our staff to begin planning. So, Mr. Hulk, when you ask, we have started. We have with us the three co-chairs who are doing that: Dr. Smith, Ms. Umar, and Principal Young are the individuals who are chairing this. And we are going to plan thoroughly. We started last spring with some committee work, and that committee work was good. But now we need to follow through on it. And is it possible that we're going to come back? Maybe. Now, I will have to say that will be a school board decision. That is a policy. And it will be probably built upon a recommendation that I make to the board, but I recognize that the board, the 5 board members, will make that decision and that direction to me. The board had suggested to me early on in my tenure, which has only been a couple of months, that they thought it was a good idea to follow through on the plan and that we bring it to them. And we are doing that. Now, Jeff, you asked a question about, have we thought about trimester? Yes, we have. Doesn't mean that's what we're going to do. Has that come up in the discussions with the staff? It has. Originally, when I talked to the 3 principals here in Glendale, in my lack of, I'm being sarcastic, in my wisdom, I was aiming at trying to tie the thought of reopening to Nicolet's reopening, which was at the end of January, early February in there, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Hulk. But
yes, yeah.
That may not have been the wisest target because go ahead.
I totally, like, it's no small undertaking. I know what I've got to do in the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks to get kids back. And I'm just a teacher. And I mean that, like, I don't have to work. I'm not an administrator. I need to worry about all my staff. And it's going to be a million times harder for me to do my job. I will be the first person to admit it. But there's a fraction of our constituents that want their kids back in school. Sure. My answer, whether or not I want my personal kids back in school right now, could change in 3 weeks based upon data. But I guess I'm just asking you guys to, if it's legitimately safe, to maybe start the planning now to give parents who want that option, knowing full well it's not easy and it's a, you know, like I said, I've done this for a long time. Next semester is it's gonna be trying. There's no way around it. It's just going to be.
Well, I think I can say to you, and I think I think my statement has the support of the school board on this. I'm sure it does. And I think it has the support of the staff and faculty, the administration in the district, that we are starting that planning.
Okay.
I don't know if the board is going to say to me, you're going to open in fact, I'm sure they aren't ready to name a date. But like today, Principal Young at Glen Hills arranged for me to meet with the, what was the title of everyone there, the department leaders or?
Our team leads, yes, our team leads.
Team leaders
Mm-hmm.
at Glen Hills. And they gave me many messages, important messages, but one was, whatever is decided, give them enough lead time to be prepared to make it a success. Don't drop something on them on, and I'm exaggerating, but don't drop something on them on a Wednesday and say, I want this implemented Monday.
And that's exactly why I wanted to bring this up now. And I don't want anyone to construe this as like well, Nicolet's doing it, and yeah, I work there. My intent was to ask this conversation even before our school board meeting last night. But I think in fairness to the staff, having that lead time, I was just wondering kind of where that process was now. And I guess where this stems from. So thank you.
I heard the message. Now I'll pick on my colleagues who are chairing the committee. If they want to add anything, Principal Young and I were in this meeting with the team leaders, but Parkway has had these same discussions. I don't. Does any of you want to comment on? Well, before the three of them set up a faculty meeting yesterday where they invited me to address the entire school district faculty. And I thought they did just a marvelous job of discussing this with the entire faculty and giving them a chance to talk with me. I was very pleased with that. But okay, my colleagues, principals, anything you want?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Moser, I was going to ask if now would be the time to be able to share our slideshow with families and community members, as well as staff members that are on this evening's Zoom conference call.
Sure. Do you mind, Mr. Hulk, or anyone mind what? Go ahead. Dr. Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. So this evening, we would like to share with you our Beginning the Path to a Safe Return to School. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Miss Anna Young, so that she can continue on with this evening's presentation.
Thank you. If we could go forward one more slide. One of the things that we want to kind of preface this with is that knowing that engaging in this process of reopening does not mean that we have distinctive plans. So as you stated before in your question, we don't have a specific date, but the goal of the planning is to develop a detailed proactive guide to have in place so that when that decision is made, that we can move forward. I know that, you spoke a little bit about the idea around, surveying families and getting that commitment, but we feel there are other components of that process that will need to take place before we can enter into that deeper work.
So as we think about planning for the reopening of schools, here are some resources that we are using as a guide. These resources, along with many others. And each of these groups or organizations have guidebooks and guiding questions, factors to consider. And so we are using that as a base and a springboard. We are also looking at other districts' reopening plans and learning some lessons from districts who have opened in the hybrid or in-person model, learning from their success as well as some of the things that they've reconsidered since their initial plans. Ultimately, we need to make decisions that are best for the Glendale-River Hills School District. I think everybody on this call would agree that we are a very unique community. We are a very unique district. And so we will use these resources and research, but definitely use it as a springboard into making a plan that makes sense for our community and make it our own.
So we believe that it's very important to involve stakeholders such as families and school staff, food services staff, custodial staff, transportation services staff, caregivers, and community members as we plan the path to a safe return to school. So this journey is going to involve a shared leadership and a shared decision-making opportunity for staff members, families, and community members. We believe that it's incredibly important to be able to hear from various voices. And we want to involve our stakeholders in this process by inviting them to participate in the reopening plan, giving voice to their ideas, to their perspectives, to their opinions. when doing things such as completing surveys or through community forums, such as joining one of our reopening committees. Many of you may remember that last summer we had 3 committees, and many of you may have been involved in those committees. I would like to invite those of you who were already involved, as well as anyone new who has not had the opportunity to participate on a committee, to please feel free to join us. We believe that this work is incredibly important, and it is going to require a shared vision as well as a collective effort. So we look forward to traveling down this reopening path with all of you.
As Dr. Smith mentioned, we are reinstituting the 3 committees that we began this summer that many of you had the opportunity to join or give input. And these committees will have opportunities to participate during the day as well as the evening hours to accommodate different family and staff members' schedules. We really want to make sure that everybody has a voice because everybody is approaching this with a unique perspective. The curriculum committee, for example, which is led by our Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Jenica Westfall, will focus on the academic pieces of in-person learning, student and teacher programming, scheduling, learning and assessment, and support resources.
Our Health and Safety Committee, which is led by Jim Beckman, would be looking at the daily operations and safety protocols. We know that a great deal of the science around COVID-19 has shifted over time, and many things have remained the same. We want to build on those safety protocols that we had established over the course of the summer, following those guidelines, learning what has worked in other districts, so that we can ensure that as our students and staff return to our buildings, that they do so in a safe way, through the daily operations, our transportation operations, as well as food service.
So we also have the Social Emotional Committee that is being led by Dr. Shannon Kilton. And I think it's important to note that during a pandemic, people oftentimes will experience many emotions such as sadness and fear, anxiety, depression. And I just want to again commend our students and our staff and their families. We know that there's a level of resiliency, and yet we also realize that there's a level of learning and teaching in isolation that both our staff and our students have oftentimes felt. And so, and we had a parent comment on that earlier this evening, just about the fact that although his children may be doing well academically, there is that social component that oftentimes is missing. So as we look towards one-day reopening, the transition will likely cause many new emotions, and we need to be able to support our staff and our students and their families by continuing to offer social emotional resources and supports, such as social emotional programming, family outreach, transitional support for staff, student and family resources. And we want to ensure that we're providing people with mental, emotional, and social support, allowing people to make a smooth transition between home and school, and between virtual and in-person, both teaching and learning.
As mentioned before, we will not be able to do that without data collection and communication. We know that we are going to need to survey our stakeholders, our staff, our families about their intent and their ability to return to school in an in-person model. We also will need to be transparent and analyze and apply that survey data to the decision making. We know that we are going to need, throughout this process, a strategic and layered communication plan for all stakeholders, so that people know when to find information and where to find information, so that it is both ongoing and predictable.
Ms. Young, Dr. Smith, and myself, Mrs. Umar, are co-chairing the reopening planning process. And we would like to encourage you to reach out to us at any time if you have any questions, any feedback, any thoughts, whether that's now and you want to shoot some suggestions our way, or as we continue along in the process. Perhaps there are some resources that you would like to pass along that you have found very helpful, or perhaps there are specific districts plans that you think would be a great model that we should look towards. Please share that with us at any time. We openly encourage that communication along every step of the way. We are interested in ensuring that the plan that we put forth is a comprehensive plan, that it is a safe plan for students and for staff members, and that it includes the voice of everybody in our district.
So again, we believe that a safe reopening is shared work, and we look forward to embarking on this journey with all of you. Thank you.
Any comments or questions on that presentation? I was pleased with the presentation yesterday to the entire faculty at Glendale-River Hills, and to and with the response from the faculty. Very professional, very optimistic. That there was an interest in being part of the planning, that when and if we do reopen, that it's done with good planning and foresight. And implementation. There's a difference between planning and implementing the planning when the time comes. And we've seen that now. We're watching that throughout the nation. We can plan for a vaccine, but we have to you have to implement it. You have to carry it out operationally. And that's not different from us as a school district in taking care of specifically the needs of pre-K and grade 8 children. And that's one of the blessings of a K-8 district, is that we can zero in on those needs specifically, because that's what we do. That's what our teachers have been trained for, and that's what our administrators are prepared to implement. So thank you very much, administrators, for that. It's very, very good.
Dr. Moser, I do see a couple of hands raised up, so I'm gonna unmute them, okay?
Sure, please. Who would like to go first? Chris, is that you? I can't hear. Chris, I still can't hear.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sometimes it takes a second.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. You know, after sitting on my bum all day long, grading final exams at UWM and writing another one, I work out, so I was playing as I was on the treadmill. But I do have, you know, just a comment, concern, question, if you will. You know, that which we're weak in education has only been amplified in the virtual world, and that is student engagement with content and with each other. And I think, you know, there are creative ways for students to engage the content with each other in social ways. My son, who is an 8th grader, though, has yet to experience a partner assignment where he's forced to talk to another student, to you know, engage with another student in the class, to turn something in, and that's something that would engage him, would engage the social aspect of learning. And right now, my own students at UWM are taking half of their final in a collaborative sense. They have to create a recording on a Jamboard, going through these questions, recording their conversation with the content. there are ways we can do this, and I'm wondering if your staff has, you know, addressed some of these ways and implemented some, if we're just an anomaly, because I think it can be done. I think it would address some of the social concerns that we may have that students are lacking in this environment.
Very good.
Otherwise,
well,
you know,
thank you.
teachers are doing a great job. I didn't mean to detract from that. You know, I think my kid is learning, otherwise very successful, but he doesn't socialize.
Okay.
So
no, I did not take your comment as being a criticism at all. Not at all. So, I'm going to pick on my colleagues. Principal Young, since we're talking about an eighth, I pick on you.
Absolutely. I guess I would say I'm slightly surprised to hear that is the case, knowing that the use of breakout rooms when I have visited classrooms is something that's used. I know across the different groups, there are kids reading books and discussing novels collaboratively with one another. They have the ability to collaborate through their Google Docs, which I know happens. So I guess, you know, in taking a look at that, I do know that, you know, in speaking with, in particular, 8th grade teachers, that we do have some engagement issues when we put students into breakout rooms and students will not engage with one another. And so, you know, the social development of 8th graders and the social development of college students there's a vast valley that exists between them. And I know that, you know, based on that, we do experience sometimes where teachers are finding that they are seeing a lot more engagement when they're asking students to respond in the chat or giving students a variety of ways of responding to questions, because otherwise when they do break them out into breakout rooms and they visit, sometimes students will turn cameras off and not speak. And so to really measure that learning and to encourage those pieces is still taking time. And I would say that what I've found in the teacher practice is that we are seeing that most of what we've done, like those relational things that we've done to build that kind of climate, to create that kind of book talk and that kind of academic talk that happens in the classroom, usually takes about a good month to really develop in a normal setting. And I think we're significantly still delayed in that area and getting there with kids, but I do see progress being made in that area and know that it is something that teachers are trying to plan for and troubleshoot and practice share around.
Yeah, and I agree. I wasn't comparing the social aspect, the social nature of having my 13-year-old boy with my college students, but I think if you were forced to do an assignment with another student, you know, where they had to go off and actually talk and create, I think we may have a different thing. Otherwise, you know, I can set students upon a question in a breakout room and nothing happens. But if a product is expected at the end, and, you know, and all students were expected to contribute to that product or partner, you'd have to.
Right.
So I was wondering if there were, you know, there's a lot of creative ways that we can get kids more, you know, engaged in their learning. Jamboards, for one, are great, you know.
Yeah, and we utilize Jamboard and we utilize Padlet. They're utilizing Flipgrid. They're utilizing many tools. I know, for example, the 8th grade just posted their narratives via, I believe, Jamboard. And people were able to go in and comment, including some of their teachers from their previous years, to go in and look at their narrative work around living through this pandemic. And it was an interactive site where students could comment and react to one another's writings and provide feedback. So there is some really good collaboration that is happening.
Good. Thank you, both of you, on your discussion. Was there another hand that was up?
Yes, and I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, I can hear you. You're good. You're good. Thank you. You're good. Yes.
I'm Astrida Kogers, a parent of a student at Glen Hills. I wanted to start with 3 thank yous, echoing the previous parents' comments about the amazing work that the staff and the teachers and administrators have done so far this school year. So thank you for that. Thank you also in your slideshow and in your planning for recognizing that there really are a lot of diverse voices to listen to and many stakeholders in this process. And so thank you for recognizing that and for promoting that. And the third thank you is for making the discussions about the superintendent search public and available for community members to participate in. I know that some meetings have been more attended than others, but just the fact that we are able to listen in and try to understand what's going on in this process that hasn't occurred in our district in a very long time is really beneficial. So thank you for those three things in particular. I wanted to bring up a topic that I hope doesn't get lost, or I know it won't get lost, but I wanted to revisit some of the momentum that we had around discussions for mental health services in our district. For a couple of reasons. As was mentioned in the slideshow, we know that there are some unique needs now for families and students and staff as we think about returning. But also logistically, I think the budget's going to start being discussed in the coming months. And so I just want to plant some seeds about establishing priorities for our district for the next year in terms of mental health services. We are very fortunate that Denise Davis has joined us as a district social worker. And so thank you again for everyone that made that possible, because a year ago that wasn't certain yet. But we also have needs that haven't been met yet. The National Organization for Social Workers recommends 1 social worker for every 250 students. And so we have more room to increase our social worker staff. We also had very good conversations about school-based mental health services that I don't want to see those conversations pushed. I know we all have things on our plates, but last year in the spring, it was already too late to find organizations that would be able to help support our district. So I would just ask that these topics, stay at the forefront of our conversations in the coming months.
Very good. Well, thank you for that suggestion. Let me just build on that. Dr. Kilton has been talking with me about the services provided by the social worker and the needs, and I want you to know that is being brought to my attention. And it is true that the budget is coming, the budget for 21-22. And it is very common that the budget deliberations start now in January for the next year. And I'm anticipating that you must know that, to mention that, because it is true. You don't start doing the budget in June. You do it coming up now at the beginning of the new calendar year. It is also true that school boards, school districts, administrators put their money where on items that they think is important. And it's one thing to give verbal support to a cause, social work, whatever it may be. It could be English, could be diversity. Until resources are placed behind that concept, it is not necessarily important in that school district or in that organization. And so that concept is one that I believe in, that if something is important, resources have to be given to it. Otherwise it won't happen. Money does make a difference on whether things take place. If teachers are important, there have to be resources behind having enough teachers and keeping teachers, retaining the quality staff within a school district. So you didn't know you were going to get a lecture off of that comment that you made, but thank you. Your timing is perfect. It's good. Others. Let me meander. Remember I said I wanted to cover some topics. let me talk some more and then you interrupt. As I move ahead, I mentioned the superintendent search. Let me talk about something that will happen to us, and that's that we're going to have snow or weather days. I've been asked this question by parents, by staff, by faculty, administrators. Are there going to be snow days? Now that we're in virtual, in a virtual mode of instruction, do we ever need snow days anymore? We've been discussing this. The principals and myself and the faculty, I've been discussing this with the fellow Nicolay area superintendents. And from the perspective of the Glendale-River Hills School District, I am leaning right now that we will still need snow days and weather days, and that there still will be. Now there is room for discussion on this. We have we've talked about this with the school board, specifically with the curriculum committee, and it hasn't been laid on the table that there are going to be that specifically, yes, there will be snow days, but I find, maybe I can say we, but I find that it can be extremely difficult for a faculty and for the kids to assume that everybody has a device at home. Both the faculty and staff, from which live instruction will happen on days that are declared snow days. There's every reason to believe that within the Glendale-River Hills School District, we can have information on the websites which students will work on snow days. But I'm not necessarily convinced that live instruction is the most practical, pragmatic for our faculty and for our students. So that final decision has to be made yet, but it's going to have to be made fairly soon because we live in Wisconsin. And I might wish all of you who love snow and winter, this is heresy, but you know, I'm not one of those. How can I live here all my life and not love snow? But I don't. We're going to have snow. We're going to have cold weather, and we will be prepared. But the concept of everything will be virtually done on snow days or weather days. There may be efforts to do that in some other school districts, but it may not be done in the Glendale-River Hills School District. I don't know if my colleagues have anything they want to add to that. Ms. Umar, Principal Young, Dr. Smith, anything to add that can maybe be clearer or more persuasive?
Sure. So we have had the opportunity to talk about a possible asynchronous checklist that teachers would prepare in advance that would give students the opportunity to practice and reinforce some of the skills. I can show you a quick sample of what that could look like. This would be very similar to the Friday asynchronous checklist that students currently receive, where they're asked to log into Dreambox and complete a few lessons or read independently. And so the benefit to making a decision prior to a weather day happening is that teachers can take some time to proactively put these together so that they are not putting them together the night before, and that students can practice along with their teacher about and discuss activities that they can do on a snow day or on a weather day that would continue to reinforce the lessons and the learning, but would not include live instruction.
Thank you very much. The person who calls snow days in the Nicolay area is Dr. Dellutri, Dr. Jeff Dellutri. superintendent of schools for the Fox Point Bayside School District. I was scheduled to be the snow person, but my colleagues didn't trust me because of my reputation when I was at Nicolay that I didn't ever call school off when the weather. So they made a unilateral decision before I came that I couldn't be the snow person, and that's just fine. Somebody else will make that call. The Glen Hills Middle School Associate Principal position. Fortunately, we lost a good administrator earlier this year. Sherry Tucker resigned to take a position in the Shorewood School District. We miss her. She was an asset to our school district. She was the associate principal working with Principal Young. We have not replaced her at this point. During the time of virtual instruction, I have not had the motivation to fill that until I know what that position should do. And Principal Young has been working with the team leaders at Glen Hills in identifying a job description of what actually needs to be done. Instead of just filling the position, I wanted to study this. In fact, Principal Young and I met with the team leaders today, and they were very clear to me on what they were looking for. They indicated to me, at least I think they did, and Principal Young can correct me, that during remote or virtual learning, having that position wasn't as critical as it will be when and if we go to reopening the school. The team leaders said that once we decide that, or if we decide that we're going to reopen Glen Hills, they felt that that position, whether it is called an associate principal, or if it's called a dean of students, or it's called something else, that position be there to provide the services to the families, to the teachers, to the students. And I thought the team leaders at Glen Hills were quite clear to me, and they've made it very clear to me what that person should do, so that when I make a recommendation to the school board on filling that position, that it is in detail and why that position should be filled. Right now, it is not filled. It is vacant, and we will be, the job description that the staff has put together in conjunction with Principal Young is quite good. I think part of the Mr. Hauk's suggestions on the reopening of school, part of when that position will be considered to be filled will have to do with the reopening plans that we have, or that we will have. And my recommendation to the school board, who will have the final say on whether that position is refilled or not. I have discussed it with them in a preliminary manner, and I will be having future discussions with the school board over that particular position. Any questions or comments on the associate principalship at Glen Hills? Principal Young, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that the team leads and I had an opportunity to look at our current description as well that was in place for Mrs. Tucker, and we were also able to look at some job descriptions that matched that position in other districts, and we really worked together to try to think about what the needs were of our students, and really thinking about and being cognizant of the time frame that we have to work. And yes, we would need someone in place if we were going to be moving back into an in-person format, but also really wanting to be aware of the fact that we want to attract the best talent and the best candidate to meet the needs of our students and our families. And we know that hiring at this time is not going to likely produce that candidate. So we really want to wait as long as we can to get us closer to the time where we would be able to attract a high level of talent to that role in that position to make sure that our students are well taken care of at Glen Hills.
Thank you. Any reaction to that?
Dr. Moser, I see a hand that's been up for a little bit, so I'm gonna let them in.
Please go ahead.
Hi there, it's Carla. I actually put it up some time ago. I wanted to speak around the same time as Estrida. So I don't know if you want me to hold my thoughts and circle back to that topic later. She was speaking about mental health supports.
You
it's
can
up
talk
to you.
now.
Okay. Yeah, I got to leave soon anyway to go put my kids to bed. But I just wanted to give a hearty shout out to Estrida for her comments, all of which I agree with, about the need for continuing to grow our mental health supports and social service supports in our school district. But in addition, I wanted to say that with respect to sort of, as we move towards returning to school, I really want to encourage our leadership to fight hard against sort of a going back to normal model. And what I find myself thinking about is, I don't know if any of you are, if enough of you are old enough to remember, when 9/11 happened, this struck the imagination of my husband and me. For 3 or 4 days, there was no air traffic. And it was this massive, terrible event, but also weather modelers learned an incredible amount from this crisis because there were no airplanes in the sky for 4 days. And so they used that and they learned and they built new models for how to think about weather and sky cover and the impact of air traffic. Okay. And that's what I think you can do here pedagogically. I hope you will strive to bring curiosity and this sort of open mind to what's happened and be really curious about kids who have thrived now. And to ask pedagogically, philosophically, what can we do different to bring what they're getting at home and in a virtual model into our schoolhouses to make life more successful for them, right? For kids who are struggling now, but who you saw succeed at school, what gaps can you fill so they can become more effective virtual and independent learners? Because this is the future. We can anticipate another pandemic, right? And I think we can ask the same thing of teachers from a growth perspective, right? Which teachers are doing really well now? What tools can they teach the other teachers? You know, what can we learn? And all of that really depends, in my view, on really strong social emotional supports so that we can be resilient as we go through these growth curves. You know, I think we can expect a lot of critical thinking. And as you all know, as teachers, it's that fine line between growth and cutting people down. But I just want to urge you to continue to think about that. And, you know, to make an effort to reach out to thriving students, see what you can learn from them, and the other, you know, all directions. So that's my piece. Thank you all for being here and for listening to us.
Thank you. Excellent comment. It's a very encouraging comment. It is. It's a very encouraging to educators to say that. Appreciate it.
Well, so much is going well, you know. I like to talk about Mrs. Merkel just because I can, because she's my son's teacher, and she's just doing a fabulous job. But I also see stress sometimes, right, as she struggles through. You know, it sounds like criticism. It's not. You know, I just see a human trying to work in a new modality and really doing a fantastic job. So I hope we can continue to support our teachers, make sure everyone's as well and healthy and supported as they can be.
We will. We will, and thank you for the encouragement that we do that. There's nothing wrong with reminding us. I think Mrs. Steiner did that earlier tonight.
Nothing but love, you know that. Nothing but gratitude.
It does. Very good. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Now let me, one of the most popular topics at school board meetings is presented by Dr. Kilton. She presents every 2 weeks our health report. It's an important report. It tells the school board and the community where our community is right now in a health context. It reflects data and the science reporting from our health department. Now the school board has seen fit, and I think it's a good idea. The school board has moved that report up to the beginning of a meeting. And it's based on the concept that many people in the community, the faculty, the staff, are coming to school board meetings for that specific purpose, is to hear Dr. Kilton give a report on the health report. And so tomorrow night, you'll see that at the beginning of the school board meeting. So if that is something that you are interested in, please be aware of that change. Also, the board has seen fit, and I think they're right about this also, and I think this goes to comments that have been made tonight, that they're moving the visitor participation earlier in the board meeting. So that if people have something to say, again, whether it's staff, faculty, the community, parents, they don't have to sit through an entire meeting. If they have things that have to be done as adults and parents, we all have things that have to be done. President Franklin will be calling upon people earlier in the school board meeting to speak. And the board also felt that if they have something to say that is on the agenda, that if you wait until the end after the board has taken action, it may be too late. And if the board is interested in listening to the constituency. And so you'll notice that change, but also specifically, I want to say that the board has recognized the importance of Dr. Kilton's report on health, and there's been that change. Let me just run through a couple of the topics tomorrow night on the school board meeting. Some very important topics, if I may. There'll be the board, as I said earlier, the board will approve of the selection of a superintendent search firm. The board will approve of a new organizational chart within the school district. It is new in various ways, but probably the most significant way that the organizational chart is different is that the principals report to me as superintendent. I like to call this flattening out of an organization. I view the principals as being extremely important in carrying out our duties. And as such, I like to have a flatter organization and have the principals report right to me as superintendent. So this has been presented to the school board personnel committee. They have approved of it, and they're going to recommend its approval to the entire school board tomorrow night. I'm also, tomorrow night, the board will be considering administrator salary increases for the 2021 school year. The teachers and the other staff members received their pay increases for 2021 starting today. The board had approved of those at a previous board meeting, and tomorrow night the board will be looking at administrator increases for this school year. Tomorrow night the board will be considering the extension of administrator and coordinator contracts. And as such, they'll be taking action on that. And those are just some of the topics. As you can tell, some of those are extremely important topics. There are also the normal first reading reading and discussion of policies. There's going to be a waiver request to the board. I will be recommending that there be a waiver on what is known as educator effectiveness and personnel evaluations. This is a DPI, a Department of Public Instruction requirement. The DPI has wisely sent to superintendents a list of all the DPI requirements and said that they will consider waiving items. This is one that I think can be waived for the 2021 school year, not forever. And I assure the parents that that evaluation and supervision of instruction will continue in the Glendale-River Hills School District but I'm recommending to the board that they not use this year what is known as the Educator Effectiveness Program for our teachers. Not that it's bad, but enough has happened in our schools that if we can just have a little mercy on that one requirement, it would be very helpful to the principals and to the staff. And that goes back to some of the comments that have been made dealing with our administrators and our staff in trusting them and recognizing the work they're doing. Yet I expect that the board will say to me, are we still providing quality supervision of our staff? And the answer will be yes. In my discussions with the principals, they will still provide guidance for our teaching staff. I'm getting close to fulfilling my promise that I was going to cover all these topics, because people were betting against me. The school hours, right now, we're having a discussion amongst the 4 Nicolay area school districts on school hours for next year. We are planning that the Glendale-River Hills School District school hours will not change next year. And the only change that we would make is if it is something that can be done next year that is beneficial to families and children and teachers, and not negative on the cost of transportation. Otherwise, I think we, in our discussions with the other 3 superintendents in the Nicolay area, keeping the school hours the same, the continuity for the community, the continuity for parents and planning for their work days and the child care and everything that goes into children attending school. We're going to try to be have as little disruption as possible. And the last item was the school calendar. We are meeting next week, I believe, or not next week. I think we're meeting after the holidays to have our first discussion with me on the 21-22 calendar for the Glendale-River Hills School District. We will be working in conjunction with our neighboring Nicolay area school districts for the convenience of families who may have children at Nicolay and in the Glendale-River Hills School District. Yet we want to have a calendar that is specifically beneficial to the staff and children of the Glendale-River Hills School District. We are having a meeting that in conjunction with the teachers. There will be representatives of the teachers, and I do plan that we will involve parents in that planning before we ask the board to approve of it. The final approval of a calendar does go to the school board, and I want to be able to say to the school board members that we have sought input from the various, and Dr. Smith will like this term. This is Dr. Smith's term. There's different stakeholders, and we do want to have as much input before I take it to the school board. Okay, I've said a lot. Are there other comments or suggestions or questions or whatever it may be? We're getting close to 8:30. I don't want to rush us. We've got a couple of minutes. Anyone, including faculty, staff, parents, school board members?
Oh, I have a hand up. I'm gonna let them go.
Please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I have a 6th grader at Glen Hills, and I want to give a huge shout out to the 6th grade teachers. They have been amazing. In addition, I'd like to give Miss Young a huge shout out. It's my son's 3rd year at Glen Hills, and he's had as many principals. And I would say that this year, as a parent, and I'm a teacher in a district that is going to return JK through 5 days a week starting in January.
but I would say that this year, as my son's third year, I have gotten more communication from Glen Hills than I've ever gotten. Your weekly video updates are really, really appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that comment.
Yes, thank you so much for the compliment. I really appreciate it. And please continue to also reach out to me with any concerns or questions that you have. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to do everything we can so that you can't say we've had 4 principals in 4 years. We're going to, she's a keeper, and we're going to do everything we can. That's important in the leadership of a school.
Well, we're excited to meet her in person someday soon.
Yeah, that's a good point. She feels the same way about meeting the parents and the kids. That she has yet, many of the kids, not all of them. She's met some of the kids, but face to face. That's the joy, part of the joy of being a teacher. Well, it's 8:30. I want to thank everybody.
Dr. Moser, I have just one quick comment, please.
Board Member Vukovic, yes, please.
I just want to thank the people who are on this call. You listen to us talk time and time again with no input because we can't really have a forum to do that. That's why I spent, even though Andy's gonna have us there for 2 hours tomorrow, I spent the last couple of hours listening, just listening to what people had to say. And I know sometimes you look at us and you kind of cross your eyes like, what are they thinking or what are they doing? But really we are trying to honestly get the best results for all kids. And sometimes it may look like we're going against one for the other, but we really not. We have to look at the whole situation. So as you guys give your feedback, I love Dr. Moser. I actually keep telling him and he gets upset with me. I really believe that he put stability, helped us put stability back into this district, not giving any, taken away from anything that was happening, but think about what we've gone through. This district has gone through a pandemic. Then we had to go through an opening plan. Then we had to go through hiring a principal. Then we had to go through, oh my goodness, our superintendent is retiring. Then we have another associate principal that, and all this is just life stuff. It's nothing bad or good. And then we all have to come together and figure out what's going on. So I want to thank the parents that are on here for being patient with us. I know sometimes it looked like we were just completely just disheveled, and we were at times. But I think Dr. Moser really helped put us together. Please have faith in us. We are trying to do the best we possibly can. I always said you can reach out to me, whether you want your name known or not. I always keep that to myself. If you have a comment, if you want to yell at me, go right ahead. If you don't like something that I did, please let me know. Because as Dr. Moser said, and this is the one thing, I have a contract for 3 years. This is a contract that you have hired me to do. It's not, I work for you. And this is an honor to work for you, but I still work for you. And then when re-election comes, that's when you decide if you're renewing my contract. Just like we're getting ready to renew the contracts for administrators, that's the same thing that I go here. So I have to keep my job performance up or else you will fire me. But I want to just thank you. And like I said, if anybody has anything they would like to say or just email, I do listen to, I do read my emails every day. I'm a hard time responding. I usually call people because I'm not a big emailer. I do call a lot, ask Dr. Moser. But thank you. So please, if you do, put your phone number in there because like I said, I'm usually on the road and texting and driving is not a good thing. So I usually call. But thank you so much, and I appreciate. I know Andy would have been on here saying the same thing I was, but thank you so much. And your staff, our staff, I am so proud and I boast all the time. Do you know what Glen-River Hill School is doing, district is doing? I am so proud. And Anna, I do want to do a little special props that you came in here with not meeting hardly anybody. You came in at the end of August and you really, I've heard such great things. So I do want to say thank you to you personally, just because you guys are rock stars and I am proud to be part of this district. All right, now I'm done talking. I promise I won't talk that much tomorrow.
Okay, all right. School board member Vukovic, thank you for those words of encouragement. And that's important to the community and staff.
I love me some Dr. M. I'm telling you, I call him Dr. M. Love him.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I get called all sorts of things. So that's the best thing I think I've heard. Well, thank you, everyone. You're invited to tomorrow night's board meeting. And the school board member Vukovic made the comment that we are open. Your comments, your suggestions, we've not only heard them, we've put them down, and we will take them seriously. And I hope our comments and the information we've given you are helpful to you in understanding what we've been doing and what we're going to do as well. So all of you, it's 8:35. Enjoy what's left of the night, and enjoy the rest of the week. And I want to say happy holidays to everyone, the community members, the staff. We need to enjoy the upcoming couple of weeks. We start on December 21st with a holiday. And I believe we come back January 4th. And so take advantage of this time. Have your kids take advantage of the time and get re-energized. So when we come back on the 4th, we're ready to go. So thank you very much. Good night.
Hi, guys. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you for coming.